Welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show that dives into the fascinating world of two of the most recognized royal couples from both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on Prince Harry and Meghan right here in California.
And I'm Rupert Bell, and I'm in London this week. I've been to a bit of an award shindig, hence the reason why I'm booted and suited. But I'll have all the news on what will be a busy week for the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Let's talk about what you'd mentioned earlier. Meghan Markle's relocation to Frogmore Cottage was reportedly the final straw before she and Prince Harry stepped down as senior royals and moved to the US. This is according to realestate.com. Realestate.com, who's now covering Sussex Watch. It just goes to show that their level of infamy is far beyond anything we could probably imagine. The 5-bedroom home in Windsor was a wedding present to Harry and Meghan from the late Queen, along with those titles that they refused to shake. But the former actress allegedly complained about the property, fuming, "I don't want to retire to rural obscurity." This is according to author Tom Quinn. And he says that this was the last straw in Meghan's pursuit of fitting into the British royal family, the mold of the royal family, that she was angry about the tiny home, Nottingham Cottage at Kensington Palace. Now, I do believe it was Katie Nicholl that reported that she asked if she could live inside Windsor Castle like Queen Elizabeth did, and they were denied living inside Windsor Castle. This was the alternative. I'm sure you've been there. Have you been there? I've been to Frogmore Cottage, and it was the most enchanting escape. It was like it's just greenery everywhere, free horses that are, I mean, they actually erected a bunch of shrubs around the house for privacy, but otherwise I didn't think of it as rural obscurity. I thought of it as a fairy tale. I thought it was very enchanting. And if you do want to raise small children in a private space, that Windsor perimeter and the protection that it offers seems like a no-brainer.
It's not, look, Windsor is hardly the middle of nowhere. It's in the Heathrow flight path, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Right? But Windsor Castle is surrounded by the Windsor Great Park. And it is, protected. So she is hardly living. It's 25 minutes from central London, for goodness sake. It's, I think anyone bringing up children and everything, if they got Frogmore Cottage, well, we've seen, obviously, the Prince and Princess of Wales have now moved into their new accommodation, but they were living in Adelaide Cottage. Perfectly acceptable, perfectly, for a young couple, seemed to me to make perfect sense. But unfortunately, Meghan got the idea that, right, I'm married into the royal family. Well, that means you live in a castle, not a house with the title of a cottage. Now, I don't know how many bedrooms Frogmore Cottage got, but if it's got 5 bedrooms, that's more than enough for a couple at that stage without any children.
Right. And that's excluding entertainment rooms. Like, they have large rooms for dinners, and they have multiple entertainment rooms that normal people don't have, because these are Crown Estate properties. So they are built for entertaining, built for hosting, and built for showing out.
Well, I don't think it's not that big by, Bagshot Park standard or Royal Lodge standard. So I don't think it will have probably a very nice dining room.
We saw parts of it in the Netflix special. That incredible kitchen where Meghan's sitting on the counter. I mean, a huge, much more beautiful kitchen than she has today. The Olive Garden kitchen.
Well, that's all just fake.
I'm talking about the ones we see on her Instagram, her real house.
Well, I know, and okay, whatever. She's got all the designer kit. Well, probably Frogmore Cottage would have had all the mod cons, to make, her famous elevate something in the kitchen of her there. She would have had everything. And it's perfectly acceptable, Frogmore Cottage, for a young couple. And the Queen was right. The late Queen was right, saying, no, you can't live in Windsor Castle. It's not right. You're a young
I live in
couple.
Windsor Castle. Like I'm there. I don't want you there. I don't need to run
Yeah.
into you on the way to the bathroom at 4 a.m.
Certainly. Well, I think they
Here
might have been able to kept away from her, but in no way should she have. And this is where that people were getting absolutely fed up with her even then. And then she moves into Frogmore Cottage, has a hissy fit, and says, "Harry, pack your bags. We're off." That's basically
and
what
they
happened.
used that rural obscurity that I
Oh,
totally believe that quote. They
right.
used that
Go and live.
royal obscurity to hide the birth of Archie. And that this is totally unrelated to the article. This is just other, this is just additional storytelling. She used that to her advantage, and this really angered Prince William at the time, who acknowledged that they weren't doing things the way that they were supposed to, that they were already at home back in their rural obscurity by the time that they announced the birth of Archie. And journalists started lining up outside of the hospital to realize that Meghan wasn't at the hospital they normally give birth at. She'd
Yeah.
had a private suite somewhere else and had already given birth and was already home. So they used that rural obscurity to their advantage. In the book, Kensington Palace, Tom Quinn claims that the couple hoped relocating to Windsor would be the perfect retreat from what Meghan and Harry saw as an unsympathetic, unfair world of media speculation and criticism. She had not seen anything yet, by the way. This is
Yeah.
way before the floodgates opened and we all got a real sense of who she was. Its remoteness made Kensington seem like the center of the universe. And that was something Quinn revealed years ago in general, like much earlier, that Meghan fumed that she could not have an apartment in Kensington Palace the way William and Catherine did. And if she was as obsessed about Princess Diana as she seems to be, completely cosplaying her in Harper's Bazaar, then that would have been something that was meaningful and upsetting to her, that she couldn't live in the same home that Princess Diana lived inside, despite the fact that I thought that she had a really great deal with Prince Harry. That was his little bachelor pad.
Well, this is where the whole thing is a bunch of smoke and mirrors from Meghan. 1 minute saying, "Oh, I'm happy," but not happy, and then takes it out on the royal family. Nottingham Cottage, look, I don't know, it's small, but in Kensington Palace, unless you live in a Mayfair mansion, not necessarily going to be that big. But again, for a young couple, it's affords a degree of privacy. You go to Windsor Great Park, you've got to feel lucky. But unfortunately, her idea of, the fantasy of being a member of the British royal family meant that she should be living in a castle as if she was in a Hollywood B-list movie, doing a
A
Christmas.
Hallmark movie.
Well, a Hallmark movie, doing one of these sort of Christmas special movies where everything is done through sort of rose-tinted spectacles as you marry a princess, or you find out that you're marrying a prince and you didn't know, and it's all Tinseltown and cootsy cootsy. That's the vision she had of it, and she expected that to happen. But the royal family is far more pragmatic and actually realizes, no, this is what you're going to get, and be grateful. Unfortunately, she wasn't grateful, and off she scoots to our Montecito mansion.
Yeah, are you seeing the story circulating today about Robert Jobson's book, where he talks about Prince Harry calling and complaining to the Queen about money? And the Queen says to him, Meghan is just spending too much money on clothing and things. And he also brings up that old quote from Prince Charles at the time, now King Charles: "I'm not an ATM." I think that pairs perfectly with the rumors that Meghan Markle likes to keep her wardrobe from these shoots, that she needs it for her royal archive, that it's so other people can't sell it. Meghan and Harry we just spoke about this when it comes to Harry in a box at the World Cup. They like their freebies. They don't like to pay
Oh,
for things. And they liked for the royal family to pay for Meghan's wardrobe. And now Meghan Markle wants Harper's Bazaar and Variety and all these other people to pay for her wardrobe. Are these realistic expectations?
well, the problem is she thinks, look, she is a diva, and divas expect things, right? Let's just call it for what it is. And she says, right, if I get a free thing, it's mine. And that's the approach she takes.